Welcome to the Grounded Guidance Podcast, where we explore the power of living aligned and from your intuition each day. I'm your host, Karen Williams. Every day you receive hundreds of intuitive messages guiding and empowering you to live a life in alignment. Are you listening? Through lived experiences, ongoing self-reflection, and enriching stories, I am joined by extraordinary people and thought leaders in their field who have embraced the magic of following their intuition and are sharing their light with the world. Trust that these conversations will meet you right where you are, and consider this your nudge from the universe to listen. Join us. Well, hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Barbara. Oh, I'm so excited, you guys, to welcome Barbara Buck to the podcast. You guys are in for such a treat this week. This is just beyond exciting for me. I'm going to take a moment to introduce Barbara, and then feel free to chime in where you would like, if anything that I may have missed. So Barbara is an intuitive healer, an energy practitioner who is experienced in many, many modalities. Reiki, Polarity Therapy, Hypnotherapy, Quantum touch. Many years ago, she had a significant health crisis, which kind of sent her into the healing spiral that a lot of us go through, that really kind of sent her deep into understanding, a deep personal understanding of what it means to heal, and really our own understanding of what it means to be a multidimensional human being. She currently practices etheric implant removals, which we'll talk about, gold frequency healing, reconnective healing, and so much more. She offers also intuitive development and mentoring programs. She is committed to helping people connect to source and empower people to find their own inner healer. So, welcome, Barbara.
Hello.
So, I have had the privilege of working with Barbara several years ago, and it was just a delight. And I hope to touch on some of the topics today that we had worked on in our time together, because it is just such a vast well of knowledge. So let's start off by talking about, we're going to go real big here. We are all spirits first, right? We're existing in multiple realities, dimensions, in and out of time. And the focus for a lot of people here is in the third dimension. We're stuck in our day-to-day, activities and life timelines that we get kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help people stay grounded, yet connected to their inner light? And two-part question, what does it really mean to be a multidimensional human being?
Great. We'll just spend the next 90 minutes talking about this. Let's just start off with the biggest question, and then we'll pare it down.
Okay.
But they're actually like great questions, and I love them because you really dive deep into my whole purpose for being here. So if you think about like what we are, right? If you think about 3D just in general, right? 3D is just these quantum particles vibrating at this frequency that creates this illusion of solidity, right? But really it's just all this energy and waves. It's waves and particles and templates. You've got morphic fields, and it's a lot of empty space as well for creation, right? So this is really an illusion, right? A lot of people say, oh, we're in a holographic reality. And there's lots of books written by physicists that we're in a holographic universe, right? Mm-hmm. So, really what that means is that for me personally, is that 3D is a very complex space. But here, but we are, again, if you just have 3D, you got to have all the other dimensions, right? Of which we exist in all the other dimensions as well. The problem is that how we focus our attention, or where we're focusing our attention, right? So you can work really hard. There's a lot of people who they spend all their time trying to focus their attention in the 4D reality, which is the astral plane, right? It's our astral body. It's connected into the astral realm. It's a shared space. It's a creation space. So there's all kinds of cool stuff happening in there, and a lot of not so cool stuff happening in there.
Mm.
So, that's their whole thing. And then you have people who are hyper focused on maybe religion like Christianity or Muslim, who are really hyper focused on the afterlife. And so what's been really interesting is for a really long time, our religions were not focused on the afterlife until, sometimes they were, like in Egyptian times and things like that. But also there was this very grounded thing that was happening, right? So if you look at paganism, you look at Judaism, even in Buddhism and Hinduism, even though there's a lot of focus on meditation and reaching enlightened states, there's also a big focus on mindfulness and being very in the body, right?
Mhm.
So you have being really in the body, having mindfulness meditations, even with Kundalini meditations, you're here, you're not somewhere else. You're
Mhm.
bringing that spirituality in. But we kind of lost that the last couple of thousand years, where this
Mhm.
dirty thing, okay, this became like something was not, and you see it in new ageism is really big on this. This is icky. We don't want here, we want 5D, we want to be
Mhm.
out somewhere else. This is yuck. I can't tell you how many times people use that word for their own bodies, for their own this part of your spirit, because this body is part of your spirit. So, we have this programming that it's genetic. It's from the media, and gosh, TikTok religion and TikTok spirituality is really phenomenal because it's so
I
I
have
cannot
never
tell
heard
you.
that. That's hilarious.
Huh? TikTok, the religion of TikTok,
Yes.
the new age religion. And
It's
what's
so
really funny
true.
is they'll look at new ageism, and they'll go, little nose will get turned up like, oh, it's exactly the same. You're just putting starseed metaphors and realities and ascension, the word ascension, on top of things. And you're doing exactly the same thing that people were doing in the 60s and the 70s and even the 1920s and blah, blah, blah. It's just the same stuff regurgitated over and over and over again. That's all about not being in the body,
Mhm.
right? So if we could start to look at the body as part of our energy field and not some
Mm.
weirdly separate from out
Mhm.
there, out
Mhm.
here, and start to recognize that our energy field is all of the layers of our energy field. They're not really layers. It's this big, beautiful um, light being that you are, and you have access to all of it, all of these different layers and all these different frequencies, light and information. On certain layers of your energy field, it's very dense information. You've got trauma, you've got little pieces of you frozen in time and fragmentation from all of your trauma and your drama and your compacted emotional energy that we all like to ignore. And then, and even in the physical body and the mental component of things, and then moving up the ladder and going into the astral space and keep going up and up and up, you still have access to all that information. It's just not being able to move your awareness from here to there, right? So people who are stuck in 3D, they're still a light being. They don't have
Mhm.
to like try to go through some ascension process, even though ascension is a thing, but it's not what people think it is. I guess we could talk about that in a second. That's a whole other thing. Um, but really is just learning how to like be able to move your awareness from here to somewhere else, from here to down to 1D or 2D or 5D or 12D or whatever, and just be able to kind of have a different reference point. For me, that's what being multidimensional is. But it's really difficult because here in a 3D plane, when we're born, a lot of us go through this great forgetting, right? We
Mhm.
forget all of our other lives. We forget our monadic structure and all of the other, our soul family and our soul group and our oversoul and all that, and our infinite self information. And we go through a great forgetting. Like a lot of people believe that it was done to us, and then when you've been doing this a really long time, you start to realize that maybe that's not what happened. Maybe everything is working in divine right order, and we made some decisions as higher beings, right? And we have to get past this idea that this whole slave system and everything that we're in, that it's not serving some sort of a more divine purpose. Meaning, is it okay and fun and enjoyable? No. It's not acceptable, in order for us to go through our process. We need to get out of this whole parasitic construct that we've been existing in for a long time, right? It's not helping us at all. But if you look at it, your 8D self isn't in that. It's not
Right.
having that experience. It knows that you're having that experience, and it's holding space for you, or your 12D self or your 16 self, but it's not having that experience. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
since you are your 8D self or your 12D self or your 20D self, and you are here, you have access to that information that you can bring in here. The key to being multidimensional is living in all your dimensions, being able to access
Mm.
all your dimensions. And that's my opinion anyway. And I've gotten into so many arguments with people about this. Like healthy debate, not really.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I'm always open to whatever people say, because I change my mind all the time. My
Yeah.
God, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I didn't, you know.
Do you think, I think that's a very pragmatic and healthy approach to living in this really is what it means to be multidimensional, living in these states continuously.
Mhm.
I'm curious about your perspective on the TikTok spirituality and religion. I want to touch on that because it, people that are listening to this may really resonate with this. What is since the dawn of ages, we are seeking something outside of us that we think we need to fill within us.
Mhm.
Is that the push to 5D, 8D, 12D, right? Um, why are so many people seeking that experience within the 5D? I want to live within 5D. I am this highly evolved spiritual being. I want to live there. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that's what's
Because it
happening?
sucks here.
So the reality is what's driving that, right?
Yeah, it's smelly and people are mean, and it's hard to, when you
Mhm.
are, I'm Gen X, and we were kind of the first generation to start to be able to have instant gratification, right?
Uh-huh.
It
Correct.
started, and well, I think millennials are probably technically like the instant gratification
Correct.
generation, but we were there,
The
close
Amazon
anyway,
generation. Yes.
right? So,
Have it in 2 days.
so, that being said, when the more you're kind of online, and the more you're perceiving how perfect everybody else's life is, and which is such a load of BS. I cannot, if I had a nickel for every person, every way shower that I know that is a hot mess in their personal life, um,
Yes.
I'd,
Yes.
I'd probably have a little bit more money than I have now. I'd be able to at least buy some coffee at Starbucks. So, I I don't go to Starbucks. I don't condone it. Don't do it. It's just chemicals. Um, so make better choices. But you hear what I'm saying? So it's like
Yes.
weight
Yes.
showers, they look at it, and people just want something better than what they have, because they see it in front of them all the time, not recognizing that it's film. It's just
It's
film. It's a creation, even people who are really out there are people out there who are extremely authentic. There's some great TikTok spirituality out there. There's some people who are really want to just be authentic and share their stories and their struggles, and what they're going through. But then you have the other 97% who just are
right.
trying to get more likes and money, and
Right.
um, whatever the situation is, or it's cool. It's the
Mhm.
latest and greatest. So then you just, you have all these people watching it, and they really want to shift their consciousness. Um, and they're just being given all these tools that are, probably actually helping them to slide back into a
Mhm.
negative space. And, I think that that's why I think that it is hard to be here. It is hard to, go to a party and be somebody who's sensitive and an introvert and go there and try to have a conversation with somebody. I mean, it was something that I went through. I had social anxiety because I'm super intuitive, just like you are, right? I'm very intuitive. I'm an empath. So I was very sensitive. I didn't have any tools to, help myself to be the most important person in my own energetic space. Everybody else's energy superseded my own. And so I was just, like a walking wounded. And I wanted everyone to like me. And it was because if they didn't like me, I could feel it and I knew it. It was really uncomfortable. Just recognize as we're going, the planetary body is running our ascension process, right? And so you have all of these beings that are being born on the planet right now and in the last 40 years that are becoming progressively more and more and more sensitive, progressively more and more psychic, progressively more have a bigger memory of being a light being and coming down here and how uncomfortable it is for them. And then but they don't have any tools yet. So since they don't have any tools and they don't have parents who have any tools, they're the walking wounded. And that, you have older generations who are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so sensitive? Stop being such a wuss. And it's just that is an issue. So I think that with TikTok, it's the solution, meaning you have all these people on here and TikTok, YouTube, all social media, really.
Yeah.
Instagram, Insta, but TikTok's really good because it's instant gratification. It's just you can,
Yes.
it's in
Well,
a couple minutes.
I am so glad you brought this up because I think it's an important point that I don't want to gloss over, and that is that this is all by design, that we are living our lives in the third dimension primarily, right? We seek this euphoric, highly spiritual experience in the fifth dimension and beyond, because that's where we think we can play without all the density that we feel within the third dimension. But the reality is we are learning and really understanding the lessons that we are here to understand in the third dimension. We can't escape that.
No.
We can't escape that. And we can't escape that by the TikTok spirituality. I love that. I love that you've coined that.
It's mine. Nobody use it.
I love it.
No, you can use it. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no,
just cite Barbara.
It's my little copyright.
Yes. Let's move on to human energy fields. For those that may not be super familiar with what it is, can we talk just basic levels and layers? We kind of talked about 3D, the 5D, the 8D.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
How do we how do people listening to this, you and I have an awareness of this, but how do we develop an awareness of what that is? Because this is really the foundation for our own healing and what this looks like ongoing in our life.
Yeah. For me, it was School of Hard Knocks, and and being in my first foray into spirituality was like in the 80s, and just Buddhism and all the metaphysical stuff like Louise Hay, can heal your life and affirmations and all that stuff. So and then really super new agey when I became a Reiki practitioner. Oh my goodness. And how reverent you had to be and how you had to do things a certain way, and how, we had to use symbols to open up our fields to an energy that everybody has access to. And so that all being said, it took me a really long time to connect in with my smarter parts. My more infinite self, that version of me that just has a little bit more information than I do, or a lot more. In fact, there's a lot of all your other versions of you. So when you look at the human energy field, I'm going to just really briefly, it doesn't matter the names of them. I'm just going to tell you, because I see it from the perspective of light and information. Okay. So, and I'm going to do really quick because you are multi-layered. Let's just do the first 7. Okay. Because that pertains to the physical incarnation here. Okay. So first layer is basically let's throw chakras out the window, everything. We're just talking
Yep.
about the information contained within each layer, because really, honestly, that's the most important thing.
It
What
is.
can I access if I'm looking at this layer, if I'm bringing my attention from here to there? So
Mhm.
the first layer is basically, it's 1D, right?
Mhm.
And it is a place where we have no time. We're frozen in time. Okay, so little parts of us are frozen in time. So past life things that happened that are frozen in time because of some kind of trauma. Um, Even our current life, when we have an emotion or something happens that isn't allowed to have a beginning and a middle and an end, that bioelectric energy that gets created when we have an emotion, because emotion is just a physical response to something, right? So so that energy, if we don't allow it to complete itself, which none of us do, I mean, we all try to suppress emotional energy, and when we're super spiritual, when we have TikTok spirituality, you just breathe through it, you do suppress, suppress, suppress video
Yeah.
games, or we have a drink or a smoke or, whatever.
Mhm.
We have all these, even the tools that we're given is to suppress emotional energy, right? So that energy isn't allowed to just complete it. We just don't relax and feel our feelings. That energy starts to compress and compact and condense and slow down until it goes from this living, moving organic light that we have on all the other layers of the field and becomes literally like a piece of us frozen in time. So,
Mhm.
like a little Barbara ice cube hanging out on the first layer of the energy field. So we can hold it on a cellular level in the physical realm, in the brain, in the mind, but also in the first layer of our energy field. And this is like our emotional blocks, right? So we hold
Mhm.
all of this compacted energy, and this is where all our triggers are, where our triggers come from. So it's the densest part of us as beings, as energetic beings, but it has a lot of information in there because your patterns are there, your triggers, your programs, because more often than not, we'll do life after life after life where we're looking at a different thing. We're from different angles. We're looking at the same thing from different angles, like maybe victim
Mhm.
victimizer programming or love or whatever. And we're looking at it from all these different places, all these different experiences and all these different realities and lifetimes and things. So past lives is probably the wrong word. I mean, it's just lives that we
Mhm.
probably chose to go ahead and bring in to. It was probably not forced on us, like, you have to, work on this. It's just literally something that maybe we chose. Hey, I'm going to play in this realm right here. So when I dense down into 1D, when I fragment down into 1D, this is what's going to be stored there.
Mm.
So that's the first layer of your energy field. That's my perception. So sorry
Mhm.
for everybody who sees it totally differently. This is just my weird brain and how it works. Okay, so the second layer is, everybody calls it the emotional body, so we'll just call it that. And this is where you
Mhm.
can see your human emotions. You see them moving around in all these different colors and cools. They always show up on the second layer, which is your 2D self.
Mhm.
But it's got a bunch of other stuff in there. It's got information about like addiction patterns and genetic patterns and things like that. Um, this is where we start to see more condensed emotional energy as it's starting to kind of slowly fragment down. So this is like a big field for people who do struggle with any sort of addiction. Or also when you're doing like ancestral healing and genetic healing. Um, it really tends to show up on this layer for me. Like I see the information from that. Okay, so the third layer is the physical body, right? It's your mental thing, right? It's your mind. It's the physical realm body, but the physical realm is really kind of created by the mental component of things in conjunction with other aspects of your energy field, like your astral plane, which is a creation space, your intentions and your actions and your words being in alignment with your infinite self's idea of how things should be,
Mhm.
all that sort of thing. So this is where we're gathering data, right? So if the first layer is data storage, the second layer is data relay between your 3D reality and your 1D reality. 3D reality is very much this is where we're doing the thing.
Mm.
We're playing the game, right?
Mhm.
So that being said, we're picking up information all the time. We're accessing information all the time, and that's kind of what's going on here, right? So that's 3D. 4D is your astral body, which is everybody has one, right? And it connects us into the astral realm, which is a shared space. And the astral realm is a cool, interesting place. We could talk about that for hours. It's got everybody's got it, and you have access. Everybody has access to it all the time. You don't have to go to sleep or into meditation or anything like that. It just takes some time and practice, and I'm not quite there yet. I prefer to stay in my 3D self and then move my awareness from place to place while I'm grounded. But other people, they like to go out. They like to have absolutely no connection into here whatsoever, because it's just funner that way, because you can fly around and do stuff that you can't do here, that we think we can't do here.
Right.
It's really what it is.
That is, yeah.
Right. So that, it's a place where we have relationships with other people. So as an empath, which most of you watching are probably empaths in some way, shape, or form, it's because your astral body is less dense than a normal person. It's just got less density to it. So what that means is it's easier for you to be able to access other people's emotional information. So, because even every human being is communicating through astral bodies, from astral body to astral body. So if somebody's angry at you, maybe they're throwing energy barbs at you. You may see that. You may not even just psychic attack, just like if someone's really mad or they're trying to get your attention, you can see it energetically, their astral body trying to pull on your astral body. This is where we communicate with relationship more than we do anything else. It's why you can walk into a room and the vibe just feels funky, because two people have been fighting and you can feel it. So this is like a big layer for us. Not only do we have that, but then we also have, this connection into the astral realm, which has, like I said, beings who have our best interests at heart and beings that don't have our best interests at heart, and our connection with other people. So this is a big layer, and this is where we can start to get into some fussiness and strangeness, even in 3D, because there isn't some sort of is there a veil? Yes, there's a veil. Does there need to be a veil? No, it's just how we're choosing to move through reality, because it would be kind of weird. And it does happen sometimes, especially at the more you kind of, the more healing work you do, you start to notice, you start to see things, that other people don't see. It's common, right? So usually what you're seeing is the astral plane. If you're seeing something real scary, it's usually the lower layers of the astral realm. And if you're seeing something that's just even different time, sometimes people see almost different timelines around them and stuff like that. You're still having an experience in the astral plane. It's just, that's where we do all that. Okay. So am I taking too much time doing this?
No.
Okay,
I do want to talk about the astral plane, but I want to let you finish.
I'm almost done. Okay.
Yeah.
So fifth layer is your 5D self, right? You already are that. So just recognize you already are all these things. You already are all these things. You just, right now, you're just paying attention to me, having a conversation, blah, blah, talking a lot. And so 5D, really, this is your avatar self. This is the perfect version of you. So what that means is when your higher self chose to, infinite self, whatever you'd like to call it, decided to incarnate or dense down into physical form, it did so with intention. And those intentions are encoded on the fifth dimensional aspect of you. It doesn't mean it's perfect and everything's sunny and there's birds and fairies and it's, all wonderful. It just means that it's your perfect version of you for this incarnation. Okay. So that's all it means. It doesn't mean that it's the perfect place and there's nothing else there. There's no trauma there. There's no anything there. It's just that. So recognize when we're talking about our 5D, we're literally talking about our higher self's intentions for us, and it's encoded on this layer so you can access it. So you know what your mission is. You know why you're here. You understand, why are we here right now having this conversation? Like we get that. That's more of that connection. So that's what 5D literally is. And each one of these things we can live. If I'm moving into 5D, then my reality starts to kind of be around me in that 5D way, which is my infinite self's intentions for me here in this incarnation. So if 5D is what am I doing here, then 6D, or the sixth layer of the energy field, is what are we doing here? It's more of a collective
Mm.
energy. So this is what where we can start to access and see a little bit of the bigger picture, right?
Mhm.
So most of us in our 3D plane, we're moving through the world with this photograph. It's like a photograph in front of our face, like this close. And all
Mhm.
you can see is just this little piece right here, right? So when you start to move up and go into like 5D, it starts to pull it away so you can see the bigger picture of your life and all the players in it. When you go into 6D, you're talking about what are we doing here collectively, you know, as
So like
a
the
soul group.
30,000-foot view, right?
Yeah.
So
Not
you're
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
bigger
like our
picture.
soul
Mhm.
group, our soul family, people who can or share our oversoul. Um, and even the human collective, we can start to just see it from a bigger, broader perspective. Um, and that's the information that we can access there. And that's very helpful when you can start to see things from a little bit more of a holistic perspective. Well, a lot more
Right.
of a holistic perspective, right? You can see the why. So when you see something go on, like a war is going on or whatever, you can
Mhm.
start to see it from a little bit of a broader perspective of why is this happening? And the why starts to become more important than the what's happening.
Mm.
And that's really important when we're going through our spiritual journey. We need to understand the why of things, right?
Yes.
So the seventh layer of our energy field, this is kind of what people will call the first layer of our oversoul, to where we
Mm.
really are starting to connect in a little bit easier with our infinite self information. And this is from a more broader perspective to where we can really connect in with the planetary body as a being, with galactic energy, with the galactic sun. Um, and all of that light and information that's contained within all those things, our star families, if we're star seeds, which a lot of us on the planet are right now, um, and just other light beings that that are um, you know part of us, or part of our monadic structure. So we start to kind of be able to really access information on a higher level, and then I can go on and on and on, but for
Yeah.
this incarnation, these 7 layers, I mean, getting to know these 7 layers or really starting to master them is helpful. Because if you don't know yourself and you don't understand the different aspects of you, and again, you are all these things right now while I'm
Right.
talking,
Mhm.
right? We both are. All of us are. We are all these things already. We're just right now paying attention to this.
Mhm.
And that's where we get into trouble, because there are lots of other beings that exist out there that see more than we do, that don't have our best interests at heart.
Right.
This is why you have people who are doing channeling, and they think just because they can channel these beings saying that they're from Pleiades or wherever, um, and all of a sudden they get their life just falls apart and they get taken over, and almost in a kind of exorcist way.
Right. Yes.
That stuff can happen because they don't know themselves,
Mhm.
right? And if they don't
Yeah.
know themselves and they don't know the different aspects of themselves, something will take advantage. And it does.
Yeah, wow, you brought up,
I
some
segued
really
right into
important.
something else,
Yeah,
didn't I?
you did. Yeah, no, it was perfect. Thank you. Um, the human
It
energy
wasn't
field.
on
What were
purpose.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. When in the work that you do, are you able to see where there are, I don't wanna use the word blocks, but are you able to help somebody see what may be keeping them stuck in a certain area within their energy field?
Sometimes, yeah, most of the time I can see the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Um and I can go through the different layers and check out things and see what's going on, and um you know it's not always for me, though, if that makes sense. So as
Right.
a
Yes.
healer,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of times we need to walk people through their own journey so that they can find it themselves, and that's
Yes.
the most empowering thing to do. And sometimes I just need to go in there and I need to give them specific information. Can I? Yes, absolutely. Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just not every
Okay.
single time.
Yeah, depends on what's going on. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the 4D, the astral realm. So this is an area where we often, depending on our spiritual hygiene and how we ground and protect, we can travel here through astral traveling. When
Hmm.
we go to sleep, when we're grounded, we can do it when we're sitting here with our eyes open. This is often where we pick up. things that don't have our best interest, attachments,
Right.
implants,
Yeah.
parasites.
Yeah.
How this is a hot topic with a lot of people.
Yep.
This has been something that I have personally struggled with for so many years, um, that I have a better understanding of now.
Mhm.
How do we help people understand what they are, when something might be attached, and what they can do? What would be the next step people would need to take to understand that maybe I am dealing with an attachment
Mm.
or a parasite? Yeah.
The first thing that I think anybody should do before they know anything about it is to recognize that you're a big, beautiful light being and you need to claim your space. And
Mm,
claiming your space is not protection. What claiming your space in is getting to know your energy field, getting to
mm,
know yourself, and then claiming all of yourself. Claiming
mm,
it all and just saying, "This is mine, my space. This is my space, not yours." We all have these beautiful light bodies. We all have these
mhm,
beautiful astral spaces and our own sub realms of astral realm around us, that most of us aren't aware of. And or we have all these ideas in our head that some entity or energy is going to be bigger and or stronger than us, and that's just simply not true. You made your life, you made this body, you made your astral realm, you made all the things. So the key, the very beginning, before you even do anything else, is just to recognize that you need to start claiming your space and your boundaries better energetically, and that it's not about trying to protect yourself from some big bad wolf that's going to get in the door. It's about claiming your space so it creates a hostile environment so nothing can get in the door.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
it because the way that entities and energies work outside of the non-local reality is they're basically like frequency patterns and thought form energy, right? So they're not in the physical realm. Can they
right.
interfere with the physical realm and manifest issues? Yes. But the only way that they can do that is through our places and spaces where we don't know ourselves and we don't claim. So they can't attach to us. They can't attach to moving, living light. They can certainly feed from it, like our cloudy, dense energy we have if we're having a negative emotion that we're trying to compress.
Mhm,
Um, so if that happens, they latch on to the blocked energy in our field, not our moving, flowing energy. So that being said, or condensed energy, the denser the energy, the easier. It's kind of like a fish. You're fishing and you throw the hook in the water, it just floats around and it does all that stuff until it latches onto something and then all of a sudden it gets taut. That's how they are able to kind of connect in and attach. So what are
mm,
these beings, right? They're simply just almost thought form energy. They can be created in a number of ways. They can be created by our own mind and our own negativity. They can be created by collective energy, like group energy. They can be created by other beings, because
mhm,
the astral realm it's got all kinds of humans, but also non-humans in there as well. There's lots of non-human energy that exists.
mhm.
So we're not the only rodeo here. So that being said, yeah, there's a lot of energy, but there has to be some sort of a connection. There has to be
Mm,
some sort of a connection and their frequency patterns. So you'll find that somebody who's extremely emotionally healthy, I mean, honestly, there's not very many people out there who start
right.
out that way, right? We're not trained, but there are people who have had really good childhoods and really good lives and haven't had a lot of
Mhm,
trauma, but they've been given tools how to
mhm,
be emotionally healthy. You can have somebody who had a really great childhood, but they were still taught how to suppress their emotional energy,
right.
because negative emotions are not acceptable. So you'll have even a great parent will come up to their child who's upset and try to comfort them and make them feel better instead of just going, "You know what, baby, let it rip. I'm here for you when you're done."
Mhm.
Who does
Right,
that?
right. Not right.
You
Yeah,
know,
right.
and does it in a way where the child can just relax and feel their emotions until they no longer have them and just hold space. I mean, most people don't even know how to do that for themselves. So how would they know how to raise their child like that? So even as a great parent may not have the tools to support us in knowing how to release emotional energy in a safe way. So that emotional energy is what entities latch onto because they really want to be here. They
Mm,
just really wanna have a human experience, and they can. It's very different in non-local realities. So, it is just something that happens. And so we have to recognize that if we don't give them what they want, or we've kind of claimed our space, um, they're not interested anymore. They're not
Right.
interested anymore.
So that's a good segue into the gold frequency immersion. So I know that
Mhm.
you do a process around
Yes.
this. Can you share with people what they can do right now to increase to claim that sovereignty right within their body
Yeah.
and really step into that gold light frequency?
Okay. So it's mind, body, spirit you have to deal with. So the mental component of is starting to look at your thought patterns, and starting to look at, the fact that probably 95% of the programming and the thoughts that you have going on in your head are just literally programs from childhood, social media, the things that are being directed towards you all the time, right? So a lot of us have these ideas, about is what reality is, or what we're thinking, and you have that, like we say, can I cuss, itty bitty shitty committee,
Yeah. Yeah.
in our head,
Uh-huh.
that is constantly being rude to us and negative to us, and not in a loving healing way. um it's important that the mental component of it be addressed first, right?
Mhm.
If you are sitting here and you're doing energy work and you're doing gold light healing for yourself and all that stuff, but your mind is in a fear state, or your mind is like, I'm trying to protect myself from all these things, and da, 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 that protection thing, it's a thought form. Okay, it's a thought form that creates, it's a thought form that attracts other thought forms. I hate to say it, but the more fearful we are of these beings, and then we try to stop that from happening, the more we attract the beings, because
Mhm.
we're giving them the food that they want. Okay. And then people go, well, I'm going to try to, smoke a bunch of dope so that I'm not scared.
Yeah,
but,
right.
okay, you're suppressing, so that emotional energy is now just compacted. It's not released. So the key is learning some emotional mastery and mental mastery and emotional mastery. That's one of the things. And that's simply all you have to do is, when you have a thought or something happens that creates a negative emotional energy, the best thing that you can do is get out of your brain and pay attention to the physical sensations in your body. Okay? Remember at the very beginning you were talking about how do we start to become more embodied and bring this into the 3D space? Well, that's the big one, is when you start to have an emotional response to something, take a second, don't point it in anybody's direction. I don't care what any, unless you literally are, being attacked by a physical being and you have to run away. You
Right.
know what? By all means, do whatever you have to do. But if, most of the time we just get triggered on social media, or partners or kids or whatever. Just take a second to get out of your head and focus on the physical sensations of the emotion itself. Oh, it's anxiety. Okay, what does my anxiety feel like? Oh, maybe I've got flutter in my stomach, my throat's tightening up a little bit, of my, you know, I'm feeling like my shoulders want to tighten. So you just relax your body and just focus on the physical sensations of the emotion. That's how you feel a feeling. you know if it gets really
Yeah.
overwhelming and you need to scream or yell or do whatever, go do it. Just don't point it at anybody. Go into the bathroom go scream into a pillow. Do what you got to do, but you got to feel your feelings. A lot of times we'll have an emotion that'll happen in a work environment that is not acceptable for us to show.
Right.
Then what we can do, this is a great way to do it, you just again take all of the awareness away from your brain and that talking at you, that's right, those programs that start to kick in, and just focus on the physical sensations of the emotion while you're relaxed. People probably aren't even going to notice that you're upset. You're giving the emotion permission, the
Mm.
emotional energy that your body is creating, because your body creates emotions for two reasons. One, it likes something and it wants more of it. Two, it doesn't like something and it wants less of it. That's it.
Mhm.
And if you just take your awareness away from your brain and focus on the physical sensations, you're telling the body, which this has wisdom. Remember, we talked about this.
Yes.
This has light and information, just like every other layer that you have, including the densest parts of you, right?
Mhm.
You're telling the body, I'm paying attention.
Mm.
So you don't need to give me this emotion again for the
Mm.
specific issue, right? So you're not going to ever compact, right? So that's the first thing, getting your mind right.
And can I interrupt you for a second? Don't you
Yeah.
think we break that connection as well? There's a process happening in our brain when we get
Hmm.
stuck with a thought form.
Right.
When we move into the physical, the physical, how it manifests in our physical body, we break that connection that's happening from in our brain. We're telling our brain, no, that's not happening. I'm feeling it here. And
Hmm.
when we continue to do that, we stop the runaway train, so to say.
Yes.
It doesn't happen once, doesn't happen twice, but I've experienced that.
Hmm.
Drop in, feel it. It's not, I'm not allowing my brain to continue to, excuse me, the mind to continue to run out of control.
Right. Because the mind thinks it controls everything. It
Right.
controls your higher self. It controls
Right.
everything, and so, and that's what our ego is designed from. It's the mental component of things that's just trying to keep us safe. All it
Mhm.
is a survival instinct
That's
trying to
it.
keep us safe. That's it.
Yes.
And it's great if there's a tiger chasing you and you need to get out of there fast, run.
It'll
Um,
tell you. It'll tell
it'll
you.
tell you,
Yeah.
but for everything else, it's just, it's take a nap, baby, So that being said, with the emotional component, yeah, with the emotional component, that's what you have to do. You have to just get out of your brain and just focus on the physical sensations. That gets you really embodied. So once you can get that down, then you can bring in, that's mind body right there. You just
Yes.
soften your muscles and focus on the physical sensations of the emotion, because when this stuff happens to you, it creates a lot of fear. It can
Right.
create anger, and it's not giving you really something new. It's just tapping into something that you already have that's been suppressed for a long time and making it
Yes.
bigger, right? So that's your mind body and a big part of it, and it's one that the majority of people, when they're doing this work, don't focus on at all. That's why people keep having to come back to you over and over and over again for an energy clearing,
Yes.
because they're not dealing with that component of it, which is part of our ascension journey. It's part of our healing journey and our evolutionary process, is to start to kind of override the mental component of things that's constantly just trying to run everything, because this brain is just here. It's only here, right? It's not anywhere else. So in this way, so that being said, that's a big part of it. So then you also want to bring in, there's some people who that's all they do. They just do the
Mhm.
psychological aspect of it, but they don't bring energy into it. You need mind, body, spirit. So
Mhm.
energetically, there's great techniques that you can use to just start to claim your space. I have a video on my YouTube channel that we can share.
Yeah,
That
I'll link it in the show notes
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
kind of
Mhm.
walks you through this process. It's I have an MP4 too. I'll drop it to you, and
Okay.
if you want to share it or
I
anywhere.
will.
So I have an MP4 too. That's no video. That's just like literally a meditation. The other one's just a way to share a technique of doing golden frequency immersion, which is a really great way of claiming your space. Now, this is not protection. The difference between protection and having healthy boundaries is like barriers versus borders. So if I'm
Mm.
in Arizona and I decide I want to go to New Mexico and I'm driving, there's a sign that says, "You are now leaving Arizona. We'll miss you." And a few miles later, you know,
A
there's a
sign
sign
that
that
says,
says, "Welcome to New
"Welcome to New
Mexico."
Mexico." Yeah.
There's a border there. We know that here's Arizona and there's New Mexico. It's just like with people and you and I, right? We
Right.
are having a chat and a conversation. I'm over here, you're over there. There's a connection, but I'm still me and you're still you. It's Arizona
Right.
and New Mexico. If you want to go to from Arizona to Mexico, there is a big wall, a huge wall, and there's border guards and there's all this kind of stuff. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. Well, they're not supposed to. They do sometimes, but still it's it's this barricade, right? But what happens is nobody gets in, nobody gets out, right? With a border, it's more like a healthy boundary.
Mm.
With a healthy boundary, you can let in light into your space. You can let in other people's emotions, to have compassion for them. When we try to
Mm.
put up a blockade, a it we nothing's getting in, but nothing's getting out. But understand, we're all
Mm.
frequency patterns and thought forms here, and this is what creates reality. frequency pattern. So if you have the frequency of fear and the frequency of I need to protect from something bigger than me, you're not able to truly, honestly have healthy energetic boundaries. So the reason that I keep blasting this out is when you're playing around with it, we're not trying to protect a shield around us. We're actually just claiming our space and saying, I am claiming my vastness and largesse as a being because I'm this big, beautiful, everybody is. Even the bad guys have light aspect to them. They just aren't tapping into it at all. And they're completely closed off. Bad guys are bad guys because they're closing off from the collective. They don't want the collective. They don't want to have a thing to do with it, collective energy. They're going to spend a lot of time trying to be as separate as possible. Right. But really, they're all just wounded children. That's how they start. Right. So even, when you have non-human beings, they just can't find their light. That's all it is. They can't find the light. And so since they can't find the light, they cause all kinds of problems because they think that this realm is really important.
Yes.
It's everything, right? So when we're doing like frequency immersion, I always say try immersion. Now you may have colors that you like better. I genuinely try to stay away from light that looks like 3D light, like a white light bulb. Things like that. I like gold light because it's alchemical. It's creative energy. You can do stuff with it. You can play with it. And so when I'm doing healings, I use it because we all have access to it. The way that I like to use it is I just imagine that in the center of my chest that I have this connection to infinite amounts of gold light, which is just source light. It's just creative energy, right? And that we all have access through our heart space. And so I just imagine there's this big, beautiful ball of gold light. It almost looks like the sun because the sun is organic, moving liquid light, right? When you look at pictures of the sun or video, how it's moving and spinning. It's a sparkly gold light in my chest that's super bright, almost white, but it's got a gold tone to it. And I will go ahead and there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can imagine that you can make these gold orbs of light. You can move one up into your head. You can move them down into your arms, down into your stomach, down into your legs. You can make a bunch of them until it looks like you have a gold light body. So your intention is just to saturate your body with gold light, right? Every fiber, every particle, every cell, just saturate it with light. And then what you can do is imagine that you have this bigger part of you, that just comes out as far as you want it to. And this big, beautiful golden ball and just start making golden orbs and saturating and just kind of blasting it out into that part of you with the intention that you're claiming all the layers of you, all the different aspects of you that pertain to this incarnation or any other. You're just claiming all of your space, however you choose to do that. Now, some people will just imagine that they have a gold light body. And then they'll just start to imagine that this gold light is going out and they just start to kind of claim it. Other people, there are a lot of people who aren't able to visualize.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask.
Right. So if you can't visualize, you go through a process of use your intentions. Your mind is everything. So create. Now, my husband doesn't visualize. So he's a very powerful healer. So he just says, I claim my energetic space. And I send gold light into all the different parts of me, from my physical body down to the first layers of my energy field and all the way out to as many layers as I can,
So setting an intention.
Setting an intention.
Right. If you aren't visually seeing it, then you're setting a very strong intention.
Right. You also want to, if you are a feeling person, you can go ahead and see what it feels like. You can imagine that you have the sun, like what the sun feels like on your skin, or just imagine, for some people when they do this, they use intention, but also feel the energy starting to fill them up, and they can tell in the places and spaces that don't have light. So you can use just your feeling centers as well. So
Yeah,
there's
all
all,
of your
you don't,
intuitive senses. Yeah.
yes.
Great.
So if
Hmm.
you don't have access to be able to see, which is okay,
Hmm.
there's plenty of other ways that you can do it. Um,
Yeah.
the most important thing, the second most important thing, obviously, is just making sure that you're connected into the earth energy. So you can imagine you've got this beautiful laser line going down into the core of the earth. That also has this big, beautiful golden ball of light
Yes.
spinning around, moving, right? Organic living light moves, it flows, it spins. Even your energy field is always moving, and it
Yes.
moves when you move, and it's pretty cool. And then you can imagine that there's this big golden laser beam light going up into, for some people, they like to imagine it going up into the sun. Some people
Mm,
like to imagine the galactic central sun.
mm, mhm.
Some people like to imagine their home planet, sun,
Yeah.
whatever floats your boat, just whatever feels the strongest, do that. So that way you're grounding above and below, and also, you know, okay.
Yeah, that's
Mm,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
I'm curious for those people that are stuck right now, stuck in an emotion, stuck in um feeling the density, right? Feeling their own density. And this process feels it's a process to continue to commit to doing this.
Hmm.
um, sending gold light to that feeling of anxiety in your body, sending gold light to when you have physical pain in your body, right? This is a process to embody.
Right.
What is a process that you can take to just barely step over the edge when we are feeling all of those when we are stepping into this process of ongoing healing, right? Healing is not a linear path, right?
No. Yeah, we
And
have big pushes forward, and then all of a sudden we feel like we just get
yes.
knocked backwards 10 steps. Happens
Yes,
to all of us.
yes. It
Mhm.
does, and it's I think that's an important piece to recognize that, this is a fluid, imperfect process, but as you continue to claim your space and immerse yourself and sit with those feelings, there's progress that is made along your healing journey. Um, so you work a lot with people who have experienced trauma. And
Mhm.
this is, I mean, haven't we all in some capacity?
Yeah.
So, trauma happens to the physical body, right? The nervous system, the limbic system, the here and now. But so many people are seeking this energetic um, level of work. They want to heal on an energetic level. So,
Mhm.
what is your perspective on helping heal trauma and helping your clients heal trauma from an energetic level?
Okay. So honestly, you can't separate the energetic component from the physical component and the mental component. So what that means is, when we have an emotion, right?
Mm.
Um, it's a physical response to something, right? And that it has to have a beginning and a middle and an end, like I said. And if it doesn't, that energy starts to condense. If you have trauma, usually
Mhm.
there's something that happens where the emotional energy gets suppressed. I mean, it has to. Sometimes it'll be shock. Sometimes it'll be not safe. If you have
Mhm.
childhood, if you had a not safe childhood, you have to compress even sometimes happy energy, joyful energy, because you're going to get in trouble if you're too loud and having too much fun. So that being said, it's with trauma, especially, it can usually, there's a level of shock that happens or whatever, and it just gets us stuck in a space. It's really hard to get out of. Even if we're not thinking about it, it's still there, right? Because the emotional energy gets compressed. So as it compresses and it goes down, eventually it gets stored on a cellular level and an energetic level. So the way that you can find, if you're not somebody who can just go in and go look at it,
Mhm.
the way that you can find this blocked energy, which is honestly all your triggers. We all
Mhm.
have these, those are your triggers. That's your trigger energy right there. And that those blocks are energy. They are energy. Just like our mental process and our mind and our thoughts are energy. Everything is energy, right? So just recognize that the first thing that you want to do is, you can get to it from your body, actually. you just take a minute. If you're anxious, let's say you're feeling anxious, the first thing that you want to do is you want to just take a second to just take a few breaths. Okay, I'm in my body right now. I don't want to be. Get out of your head.
Mhm.
And focus on the physical sensation of the emotion. Okay. If until it's gone or it
Mm.
changes, right? Get out of your head. All
Mm.
right. And
Mhm.
it might take 30 seconds and it might take 20 minutes.
Mhm.
All right. But you just got to sit with it. And then what you want to do is you want to find where you've been storing it in the body.
Right.
Okay. So you can ask your body to bring you to the location where that energy was being stored. Okay. Now, usually what will happen, you'll feel it really fast. Most people, they feel
Yeah.
it really fast. They'll feel a pressure, a tightness, a pain, or a discomfort, or, they're so hyper aware of a certain part of their body. It could be anywhere. It could be your pinky. It could be your left eyebrow. It could be in your kneecap. It could be in a spot where you always have pain.
Yes.
Because honestly, when you have pain in the body, even if you get into a car accident or whatever, if you start to have a chronic issue, um, it's because there's compressed emotional energy being stored on a cellular level there, right?
Right.
So when you do this, you can even, let's say you're having pain, it's the same thing. You just relax your body, just take a second to take a few breaths and just focus all of your attention on that pain, and then ask your body, what is it trying to tell you by bring you that sensation? And then sit with it and see what happens. You may get a thought or an image or whatever, but you may also get a feeling. And so
Mm.
if that feeling comes up, then you go ahead and just let it come out, relax your body and focus on the physical sensations of the feeling until it's gone. Right. And then what you want to do is you want to bring light and energy into it. So you can create gold balls of light in the center of your chest and move them into the area where you were experiencing the pain, or move it into the area where there is um, emotions that are being stored there for
Right.
whatever reason, because you just found it. Okay. And just move gold light into that situation, into that area. You can, how we said, make a golden orb of light, make a
Yes.
golden orb of light and just move it down into that area until you feel like it's saturated. And then just give your body template a couple of minutes to get on board. I don't know if you've played around with this at all, but more often than not, it'll clear up, or it'll just kind of lighten up um, the physical
Yes. So I
pain.
have struggled with anxiety for many years of my life. And when I was in a really tough time with anxiety, I learned this technique where you do sit with it, and it's very, very uncomfortable because that's what I've known. And it would send me into these deep spirals. But what I had heard with the anxiety is give it 90 seconds. And I was able to sit with it for 90 seconds. And as I started unpacking those feelings, the time got less and less and less and less.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
as I recognized how it felt in my body, gave myself space to sit with that, the
Mhm.
time in which I would experience the anxiety became less and less and
Yeah.
less.
That makes
And
sense.
it became a very powerful process. So now, I mean, this has been 12 years. Now, when I experience it, it's almost instantaneous where I sit in it and move it, and then I move through it.
Okay. The reason anxiety stays for so long is because we're trying to repress it. And so recognize your body gives you anxiety because it just goes, I don't like it. I
Right.
didn't like that
Right.
thought. I didn't like that. I didn't like what
Right.
happened. Okay, whatever it is, I didn't like that trigger. Okay, but because we're so ace at compressing and repressing the discomfort that you're feeling when you're sad or you're anxious or you're angry is you trying to suppress.
Yeah. That's such
So
an important distinction.
yeah,
Such an important
so
distinction. Yes.
so start practicing meditation, start practicing how to relax your body, start programming the word relax, like relaxing your head, your neck, your shoulders, your back, and doing all that, and just saying, I'm programming this word relax to when I say it, my body is going to soften. Or even the word,
Mm.
if you don't like relax, this word soften, or just whatever makes you. And do this in moments where it's not stressful. Do it in moments where you're having a more calmer time. Get into a practice of meditation to just help yourself to kind of be embodied and soften.
Mm.
That way, when you're doing emotional work and shadow work, which is what a lot of us call it, right?
Right.
You're giving your body permission to feel the feelings. And so that's what you were doing, when you were giving your body permission. It's only going to be for 90 seconds.
Yeah.
We're only going to, what, you're okay. It's only going to be, you're telling the ego, just, it's only 90 seconds. Okay. Clearly you could just let me do this for 90 seconds. Okay. Right. And that gives you're giving yourself permission to experience it. Now, maybe you have one day where you can do it a little bit longer or whatever, but you're right. The more your body goes, okay, I'm not going to die.
Right. That's exactly right.
I'm not going
Yes.
to die.
Yes.
Okay. I'm
You
feeling
turn
this,
off
but I'm
the
not going
fight
to
or
die.
flight. Yes. Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So
Now,
that's how
I
you do
will
it.
say when you
Yeah.
get into that, now I get into this after I've gone through this process for 12 plus years, I do have a moment of panic where I'm like, "Oh," and then I'm able to move through it. So it's not as if it's gone away.
No.
It's not, but I recognize what the trigger is and I can move through it very quickly now.
Right. And it's just a
Um,
body response, right? It's just
it is.
it's muscle memory, really.
Yes. So how would you address those that are maybe watching this that go, oh, I mean, there is no way I could do that. There's no way. I'm going to need somebody to help assist me with this process. This
Yeah, I
is
can help you.
yeah. Okay. Yes. And I've worked with Barbara as well. I can
Yeah.
I can vouch for it. That she's masterful at her craft. I would absolutely agree. And I don't want to make light. I don't want to be trite about the idea that this is something everybody can take on, because it's really not.
I,
The traumas span far and wide, right? And this is not something that it's not just about anxiety. There are people with really deep rooted traumas that do need additional help. So
yeah,
I want to.
I have a lot of clients who have been trafficked
Oh,
from a
uh-huh.
very young age. I have clients who've been in grew up in a war zones, and who I have clients I have a group of clients who are women who were wearing go-go boots and mini skirts and bouffant hairdos in Iran in 78, and then all of a sudden 1979 happens and the Iranian
Wow.
Revolution happens, and they're being forced to be wearing hijabs and full clothes and quitting their jobs and quitting school and everything. And,
Oh,
so like from one day they were just almost just like American chicks and not really very interested in religion or anything. And then the next day, hardcore religion is being forced down their throats and they become second class citizens. So there's so many different types of trauma.
yeah.
And the thing of it is sometimes it's just a matter of, oh, we can just do a session or two and everything's cool. But when you have severe trauma, you've got to take the tools and you have to use them. You
Yes.
can't expect anybody else to heal you. You have to go through a healing process this. You have
Yes.
to go through a healing process for yourself. There is no magic button. There's no magic anything. There is magic in the world and it's wonderful, but it's up to you to find it. People can help you on the journey, but you have to make a decision that you have made. I've made making a choice that I am going to become the master of my reality, and that
Hmm.
I am going to go through a healing process, and that I am
Hmm.
open to going through this healing process. And it's a hard thing to hear when people are really going through it badly. They want somebody to pull them out of the hole. Okay.
Hmm.
Somebody can pull you out of the hole, but you have to stay out of the hole. You can't keep jumping in there. And so that can be the hardest part, but there's so many tools outside of just counseling, even though counseling is great and I highly recommend people talk to somebody.
Hmm.
Counseling, and people are obsessed with plant medicine right now and DMT and stuff like that. They're
They are.
obsessed.
Yes.
It cures
Uh-huh.
all ills. No, it doesn't.
I agree. I agree.
Energy work, it cures all ills. No, it doesn't.
Right.
Okay? They're tools. They're
Correct.
tools that you have, and you can use all of them or none of them, because maybe you came here specifically to go through a negative experience so that you create a new tool for other people. Did you ever think of
Mm.
that? I
Mhm.
didn't, you know.
Yes.
And I created some tools because I had to go through my experiences, and I wasn't getting as much help, everybody's like, try this, do this. It's, I will heal you and this will heal you. This object will heal you. Da da da. Nope.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it is such an important distinction wherever we're at, right? I think
Hmm.
with the advent of the internet, it's so easy to hang your shingle and say, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm a
Hmm.
healer, I'm a Reiki master, and not to throw shade on anybody that does that ethically and knows what they're doing to hold space for other people. Uh, Nothing about that, but it is so important to understand that this is your own journey and you must use discernment in this journey to be able to access the space that you need to heal. And it is a process that you must undergo. Nobody can heal you. Nobody can heal you. You can access people that will help provide you with tools to use that within your space. But there, when I worked with Barbara, it wasn't as if I was seeking Barbara to heal me.
Hmm.
Barbara helped me align with some tools that really helped move me on my path with my healing. So I think that's a really important distinction for those that are listening. There's not one thing, and I think plant medicine is so big right now. Um,
Yeah, and you know what? It used properly. Um, I think that it's a great tool. It really can be. But when you start to rely on a tool, even gold light, if you're just 100% relying on
right,
one tool to get you through things, um, you're not dealing with the largesse of you. You're not dealing with all of you. You're just dealing with one specific thing. And I know people like could go through like Bufa ceremonies and stuff like that, and they have all this emotional energy come up, and then they don't know what to do with it
right,
because the person who's facilitating the circle or whatever, wherever they are, they're doing it on their own, whatever is happening. They're not trained to help somebody through a
yes.
process, so they get stuck. I had a lot of people come to me that with some really bad problems as a direct result of plant medicine, a
Mm,
direct result of doing
yes.
plant medicine and doing it with facilitators who literally, like you said, hang their sign out. And
'Cause it's trendy. It's really
it's
trendy right now,
trendy,
and
and
people, it's, "What
yeah,
can I do to get to the 5th dimension?"
oh, yeah. There's ayahuasca communities down in Peru and places where you can do it, and even on, some Native American communities are opening up to, like, peyote communities and things like that. They just charge these yahoos,
Yes,
you know?
yes,
Let the white people do whatever they want, as long as they pay us money, right? That's what my friend said because she did. She had a space on her property and just allowed people to do plant medicine on the property. It was a horrible mistake because these people just
mhm,
lost their minds
yes.
because she had to kick everybody out. So it
Well,
was
and
just
it's
not a good
beyond
situation, you
yeah,
know?
it's beyond what's happening within the plant medicine. It's the
Yeah,
integration that we're missing.
yeah.
What's happening beyond the plant medicine, the experience that you're having within the plant medicine? What's happening with the person's integration and how they're finding that space and time to integrate what happened and what came forward? I think
Bingo.
that's really where we're missing so many. Yeah, I mean, that could be a whole nother episode.
You'll lose your mind. You really will.
Yes.
You'll lose your mind.
Mhm.
And that's, and it's like that with everything. If you get so hyper focused on trying, and I've seen this with a lot of people trying to just clear entities and energies out of your
Yes.
space.
Mhm.
If you're constantly, again, like, we could talk about, hey, if you use this technique, you can pull this off and do this and that. And
Right.
that's a whole, that's, that's a whole other conversation.
It
But if
is.
you're not going through a process to figure out how they were able to attach to begin with, you can lose your mind. You can go down this rabbit hole of information. There's so much information about there about what different kinds of beings are and what different kinds of implants and how they happened and blah 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 blah, to the point of where people literally will go crazy, and
Yes.
have to be put into mental health care. I've seen it happen because
Yeah.
they start creating this whole reality, and it's not healthy. It's not
Mm,
good discernment. I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up because discernment is so key, right? If you have a bunch
yes.
of beings a sudden you're accessing and they're coming to you saying, we will fix all your problems. We
Right.
have come here to help and we are here. let us give you our energy, you know, and or you give everything to them, you're giving away your power.
Right. Right.
Right? Giving, if you're so obsessed with negative entities and getting them out of your field, you're giving away your power because you're giving them to that entity that's attached to you. You're giving them the power, not you. If you have beings coming say, hey, I'll help clear those entities, you know, and they're not just part of a team of you, right? Part of your
Mhm.
team, you're giving away your power. Just don't give away your
Yeah,
power ever.
and if we talk about, TikTok spirituality, those that they're diving into this false illusion that, when we watch a 60-second video and this is the way it is, and I can't wait to try all these things. The healing journey is a process. It's ongoing. It's an evolution. It's not linear. It's not one meeting with one person. It's not sitting on your mat every day to meditate. This is really what it means to be multidimensional. How are you existing beyond space and time, in this reality, beyond this reality? But what are you doing to continually progress towards a more evolved version of yourself, right? And how are you using the tools to be discerning,
Mhm.
not only with yourself, but beyond space and time? That it is very important. So when we talk about the energetic space, how do we become masters of our energetic space? Because our energetic space is really what informs um, the emotional component. When we really can become masters of that,
Mhm.
everything kind of is clear with our physical reality, our emotional reality, our spiritual reality. How do we really become masters of our energetic space?
Mm. Um, well, there's a million different answers to that, isn't there? Everybody's got their own
Yes.
ideas. One, get to know yourself, get to know your shadow, get
Mm,
to know your light, and love all of it. You know, if you're
yeah.
the main problem is with us as beings is we look at the shadow as and our trauma and our drama and the stuck broken parts of it broken. Not really, they're not really broken. All these little dense components of you are just pieces of you that need more love and attention. So when you find shadow, when you find density in your field, you find energetic blocks in your field, when you find dense, compressed emotional energy, it compressed for a reason because it wasn't safe for you to feel it at the time. And that's something we should be grateful for. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, little wounded piece of me for but a lot of times we just look at it. I can tell you I can hear it in my head how many people they're like, I just pulled it out of my body and threw it away, threw it away, threw it. I'm like, it's yours. It's like throwing the baby
Reclaim
out
it.
with the bathwater.
Right.
You know, it's
Mhm.
these woundings are blessings for you, and they're just places and spaces that you need to reclaim.
Mhm.
Right. And you do that by feeling your feelings and feeling your and going through that healing process, right? Claiming your space and loving it and saying thank you and feeling gratitude. In even if you have entity attachments and things like that, just say thank you for showing me the spot, this energetic block that I had that you've
Yes.
been attached to so that I can heal it. So
Yes.
sorry, bye-bye. You know, I
Yes.
mean, thank you. Bye. You know, like, I'm not saying call beings in and say, "Hey, attach to me," so that what I'm saying is that attachments are a direct result of spaces and places where we are not loving because we're not even aware of them, right? So
Yeah.
that's the key component there is and then getting right with your mind and starting to become aware of your thoughts and not trying to suppress, but just when you do have negative thoughts, go, "Who is that talking? Is that
Yes.
me or my mother?" You know, like really start to become curious about
Mm.
yourself. Become curious about the shadow aspects, but become curious about the light aspects. So many people are so afraid to connect in with their infinite self because we have all this religious programming that tells us that
Mhm.
that we have to be separate. We're not worthy of God or we're not worthy of that aspect. And we have to go through this whole process just to be
Mm.
able to connect in with that information. We have to meditate for years or all this. Nope. I'm just right here. I'm right
Mm.
here. I'm right here. I'm right here. And if I just say, you know what? I am curious about all of these other aspects of me. I think that's important too.
Mm.
Um, you know, and then again, your boundaries are everything, and just claiming your space and saying, you know, you have a right to exist in this world.
Yeah.
All of us, everyone that I'm talking to you right now has a right to exist in this world, free and clear of any energetic attachments, and in light and in love and in joy. And I don't care what you did in a past life or what you did when you were 10. You have a right to, you know what I mean? Like that you think you're so horrible. You have a
Mhm.
right to exist, and a right to connect in with yourself, and you have a right to your space. And
Yeah.
so, and you have a right to claim it. We all move through the world, through the world in these beautiful balls of light that are us, right? With these unique signature patterns. And I can walk up to you and I can give you a big hug, and I would if I saw you. I give you a big hug. And then when we separate, I still have all my body parts, and so do you. I might be missing a piece of hair, but you know, like, okay, so you know, all right, because we claim our spaces. I know that this is me and that's you, right?
Mhm.
So starting to kind of recognize that you have that right to move through the world in that way, I think is really super important. And I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Yes, you
really,
did.
this is just the beginnings of how we can start to have some mastery. Feel
Yes.
your feelings, you know, and honor your feelings, and recognize that they're valuable pieces of information for you, and they're not designed to cause you harm or make you suffer. And I
Yes.
know that it feels like when you have clinical depression or
Mhm.
anxiety, and you know, I used to struggle with anxiety so bad,
Mhm.
um, that you just, you know, have to recognize that it's not meant to cause you harm. It's meant to tell you something. That's it.
Yeah.
So listen to what that
Information.
something may be.
Yes. I appreciate that you mentioned holding space within our evolution for the light and the dark, because I
Mhm.
think that's so valuable as we heal. It's not just always about being love and light, right? We have to be able to hold the hard spaces within us to be able to continue to move through them. So thank you for that.
100%. A beautiful way to
Yeah.
say it too.
Yes, thank you. Barbara, this conversation, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you for this. This
Same.
was just so enlightening. How can people find you? Because I know people will
I have a
want to.
website, barbarabuck.org, that you can go to. I do have a blog site, wearethedreamwalkers.com, but I have not been on it in a long time. So it's pretty dated. I plan on being on it. I've just gotten really busy with clients and life, and moving to a new state and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I plan on getting more involved in that. But barbarabuck.org, it'll kind of have updates on things. I also have a YouTube channel called The Happy Empath. Again, the videos, there's some meditation videos. There's a video on there for trauma healing, to just kind of walk you through a process. It's a meditation that walks you through a process that can just give you a tool to use, which is really
Great.
nice. There's a bunch of meditations on there that I really like.
Yeah,
The
I've
empath
used
stuff
several
is
of them.
kinda old, but, you know, it may be helpful for people.
Yeah.
I did it, like, 10 years ago, so it's a little
No,
bit
it's
old.
great. I've used actually several of those, so it's been
Yeah,
great. And I highly recommend Barbara. She comes highly recommended for me. I've worked with her several
thank
times, and
you. Yeah, and
yes.
you actually won't find, like, an entity removal on my website anymore. You'll just see
Oh,
it
yeah.
as you'll
Mhm.
see multidimensional, healing, 60
Yes,
minutes, 90 minutes,
which
and
is
the
what it
reason that
is.
I did that is because there's always another component to this that needs to be addressed. And if we're hyper focusing on just doing an entity clearing,
Yep.
we're not going to get to the root of what's really going on.
Yeah.
So
Very good
that's
point.
why, yeah, that's why I took it up. But there is some cool information on the website about entity attachments and that, and what they are and how they function and that sort of thing. We probably didn't touch on today as much.
Yeah, your
But
website's a wealth of knowledge. Just go check that
it's
out.
got a
I'll
little
link
bit.
all of
Yeah.
this. Yep, I'll link all of this in the show notes. One thing I just want to end with is what is your grounded guidance, just your wisdom that you'd like to share with the community? And we'll end there.
Oh my gosh, my grounded wisdom. Be in your body, and spend time in nature. And just pay attention and start to become mindful of what's going on around you. Take moments to get out of your head. That's why people just love plant medicine so much, because it gets them out of their head, right? So just take those moments. And the reason for that is because everything else that we talk about, if you're not connected into yourself and not spending a little bit of time every day just being, and just being in your physical space and being in the space around you and listening and watching, and you're none of this is going to matter, because you're not going to notice anything. Everything's just going to pass you by. If you try too hard to be something other than you, like you're, other than what you already are, it's a waste of time. So the best thing to do is just go through a process of remembering what you already are. Just remember what you already are. When we want to just strive to go somewhere else, like 5D or whatever, it's what we already are. That's what healing is. That's my grounded wisdom. I mean, I have a million other things I could say, but that's what's coming into my mind right now, is just being in the space, getting to know yourself, and doing your best to see the beauty in it, because you're this beautiful, unique being that came here for a reason, to support humanity in some way. And you're doing it even in your own healing process. You don't have to be a healer like me. You don't have to be some guru on a mountaintop. Just be you and do your healing process and do your work, and that brings more light onto the planet, and that's everything.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I
Don't
would
be a
love to have you
stranger.
back. I will not. Thank you so
Alrighty.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today on the Grounded Guidance podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving a review. Your feedback helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Until next time, stay grounded, stay guided, and keep stretching your edges to think differently. Take care, my friends.